Storm. How are we familiar with these two players? Well, let's break it down. Eric Froehlich, pro player.
Right.
Team Channel Fireball, multiple Pro Tour top 8s, a very skilled magician.
Yeah, Michael Majors, I think, as we said before, kind of one of the sleeper pro players. Actually, with a resume, I believe, having been to, I want to say most of the Pro Tours in the last 2 years, was in Valencia. You know, an established player in his own right. He's on Storm here, which certainly has been one of the takeoff decks of the tournament.
And a lot of the places where you see him, we saw him in the Open Series when we were in Atlanta, actually, playing Naya Hexproof and Standard, then making the top 8 in the Legacy portion. So he had a nice weekend there. He's obviously having a nice weekend here. 8-1 with Storm. Again, playing against Pod, 2 decks that we expect to see a lot of over the course of this tournament. We saw this a little bit yesterday between Brian Bronwyn and Godennis, which BBD actually ended up winning that match. Godennis was on Storm, BBD was on Pod. And we'll see if that result is kind of the same here, as the Serum Visions will start things off here, on day number 2.
Yeah, well, one of the things that was key to Brian's victory there is he naturally drew a turn 3 combo with Malira. Malira is a deck that is typically not a turn 3 combo deck, but it does have the ability to turn 3 an opponent, and especially in game 1, that's something that Eric's going to have to try to hit a turn 3, maybe a turn 4, but on the draw, this can be a difficult game 1 for him.
Now, the thing here, we've seen a lot of different Malira lists over the course of this weekend. When we watched Luis Scott Vargas play against Shahar Shenhar in the middle of the day yesterday, we saw that Luis had the Archangel of Thune Spike Feeder combo. We saw that BBD did not, along with some other pod players like Josh McClain. Froehlich has it here, so it looks like it may be a Team Channel Fireball thing where these guys are playing that combo.
Yeah, Channel Fireball seems to be playing that combo. Face-to-face doesn't seem to be playing it. What's important for Michael Majors is that neither of the teams are main decking the Canonist.
Yes. We're going to see a Gataxian Probe here from Majors. See what Froehlich's working with. He's got a Qasali Pride Mage, an Abrupt Decay, a Malira, which is the singleton, along with an Overgrown Tomb, a Forest, and a bit of a mystery card off on the edge.
I believe the last one's a Ranger of Eos,
Yes,
which is important because it's the second combo piece, because with its ability to find Viscera Seer. So he has the Seer, though it'll take him a little mana to get there. He has the Malira. He's just lacking a Kitchen Finks or a Red Cap to get that fast kill that he needs in the matchup.
Now, two of the ways that the two win conditions for Storm. They've got Pyromancer Ascension, they have Past in Flames. They kind of go crazy with each one of those. Well, the Pyromancer Ascension part is taken care of in 2 ways, with the Pride Mage and the Abrupt Decay. So if Majors was leaning on that to get the job done, that's obviously not going to work this game. So
yeah, if I'm looking at speed, my guess is that Eric's looking at a turn 5 hand here. Granted, Storm, without disruption, will certainly race a turn 5 hand. But if Eric's can slow him down 1 or probably 2 turns, I think Eric can turn the corner and get his combo off first.
Now, when you have a copy of Pyromancer Ascension in your hand, you probe your opponent, you see if they have Qasali Pride Mage and Abrupt Decay as a Storm player, and I know you like to play combo. Do you just play the Ascension anyway and just say, you know what, whatever?
You know, no. And I think Majors is doing the exact right thing by not playing it and passing back the turn. You see cards like Ranger of Eos. At some point, Eric's going to, if he wants to get that Viscera Seer, Eric's going to have to tap out for Ranger of Eos. And when it does, the Storm has the ability to tap out, make Ascension, and combo with Ascension in the same turn. What Eric's doing here, which is pretty heads up, is that he's playing this, while he doesn't want to play Abrupt Decay and leave up 2 mana for Decay, he can leave up 1 mana for Pride Mage and have the same effect.
Yeah, he could have attacked for 2 there, the double Exalted Trigger, 1 from the Hierarch, 1 from the Pride Mage. Chose not to, and she mentioned wants to leave the 1 mana up to take care of Pyromancer Ascension, basically saying this isn't like a real damage race. Like, I'm not really trying to blitz you and kill you as fast as you can.
Yeah, Eric's not going to get there with incidental damage. He's going to have to find the combo, so that hit with Noble Hierarch doesn't really matter. On top of that, it is perfectly reasonable for Storm to make a 3rd land and do the entire combo in 1 turn.
We're going to start this turn off with a Manamorphose. Manamorphose, starting the turn, oftentimes leads to maybe a combo turn. Now, I would be surprised if that's what we see here, but we'll find out. Manamorphose to begin, a Shivan Reef, the draw off of that.
Yeah, I think so. Majors had a 3rd land. He didn't have a 4th one yet. I think he wanted to sculpt his hand better. One of the things that you see is he has the Desperate Ravings. That's an inclusion of which a lot of the Team Star City game, Team Channel Fireball Pantheon was playing in the Pro Tour. And we see here is actually is going to try to start a Storm line. But you're absolutely right. Manamorphose a lot of times is used with a ritual. It's used to convert your red mana into blue. It's versatile because as we see here, what Majors can do with it is he can just lead it off to cycle and get better information when he starts his combo turn.
So I mean, we might be working towards a Grape Shot turn. That's exactly what he does do, is he Grape Shots everything, clears off the board, takes care of the Noble Hierarch and the Qasali Pride Mage, and now we're going to see a Desperate Ravings. So he's doing a little bit of action here.
Yeah. It's the value Grape Shot. It's one of the lines that you don't always see played in Storm. It's especially good against Hate Bears and disruptive cards, and you see that Major's pulling that off there to take care of Pride Mage.
And you see him cast Desperate Ravings as well. Maybe his goal was, hopefully, I discard this this Pyromancer's Ascension that I know is not going to do very much this game, as Froehlich's going to play an Overgrown Tomb, take 2. This is a Birds of Paradise. That is a Malira, so he's working his way towards the combo now.
Yeah, he's working his way towards the combo. He's giving Majors 1 turn of tap outs. He figures if Majors actually burn through a Grape Shot and a Ritual, it's unlikely that off of Desperate Ravings, Majors has found an entire combo. So this is the turn he's going to take down defenses. If Majors doesn't capitalize on this, he's got to assume that this Ascension is going to be dead.
And don't forget, too, that was a conscious decision by Majors to basically say, all right, I've got to kind of slow you down. I'm not going to be able to kill very, very quickly here. So as a result, my plan is basically, okay, I'm going to Grape Shot some of your stuff, use that Grape Shot potentially later via Past in Flames, as Major's going to cast the Serum Visions, hit 1, hit 2 after he does draw. And there's another copy of Pyromancer's Ascension.
Yeah. And we'll see just what he expects to have happen here. I bet he will keep that Ascension on top as well, just because of how dead this first Ascension is most likely. The difficult part is I don't think he has another way to put a counter on his Ascension just yet. He may have a Desperate Ritual, so maybe he has a way to put a second counter on it next turn, but he doesn't have another way to activate this one this turn.
He did look like he kept the Pyromancer's Ascension on top, put the other card to the bottom. And Majors is going to play an island and then pass it back.
We actually do see that Majors has found the combo piece that he needs in this matchup. He has found the Past in Flames. That's in his hand. So at that point, all he really needs to do, because he has Manamorphoses and Rituals in the yard, is he just needs to build a critical mass of mana. That critical mass is probably 6. And once he starts on that, he can go Past in Flames and start the Ritual chain, which that could happen as early as next turn, actually.
And I do like the play here from Majors of playing Pyromancer's Ascension, getting a counter on it, because it forces Froehlich's turn of, all right, I have to Abrupt Decay this, I can't build my board anymore, and I have to get that stupid thing off the table. I think it's a really smart play by Majors, because it's, time walking I don't think is the right word, but it just makes it so that Froehlich has to do a certain thing on his turn.
Yeah, it's forcing a play on Froehlich's turn, and time walking's not a terrible way to describe it. Froehlich couldn't advance his own game plan. He couldn't even wait an instant speed the Abrupt Decay on Majors' turn, because Storm actually has the ability to, at instant speed, put on a second counter and generate a significant amount of value. If you wait until Major's turn, Majors could Ritual to get the second counter and maybe burn off a couple Manamorphoses and draw 4 cards before the Pyromancer left.
Now, one thing that's going to happen with Matthias, you see a Chivalry to start Majors' turn, is as we get deeper into this tournament here, you know, we're going to see some pretty good Storm players. And, you know, this is a particular game where the Gataxian Pro gave Majors a lot of information and basically saying, okay, I have to play this game a certain way. You know, I have to play this Pyromancer's Ascension. It's going to die. I have to keep going. I'm going to have to work my way towards a minor Grape Shot that I'll use later over the course of the game. So it's not going to be as simple as, oh, yeah, turn 3, whee, all these spells and kill you.
Well, and that's the, yeah, so that Storm does have the, you know, the turn 3, all my spells and kill you draw. And it is a good of a Storm player to recognize when that's the line you have. What Majors has done here is he knows that he doesn't have that line. And when you have a Past in Flames hand, what you're actually doing is you just need to put a lot of things in the graveyard and hit 6 mana.
So we are going to see a Past in Flames get cast here. There is some mana floating from that Desperate Ritual. You saw him tap a certain way with the Chivalry. If he does have an island, but it looks like he has a red mana floating as well. So now he's going to go through the iterations to figure out, okay, what can I do? What do I need to start with? In the graveyard, Gataxian Probe is still free. Yes. As you do know, and then he does have other rituals to cast. He also has a Manamorphose hanging out there, so even though he has to use Desperate Ritual, and this is going to be a bunch of red mana, he can convert the red mana into different colors, oftentimes blue, to be able to cast a bunch of those cantrips. So Majors is basically declaring, all right, I'm going to attempt to, quote, go off, unquote.
Yeah, and that's what almost certainly what he should be doing here. The question is, at what point does he want to sneak that Ascension into play, if at all? Because he has to start on that Desperate Ritual, it means that he doesn't really have any spells that have a second copy in the yard. And so he has 3 red in his mana pool right now. I do like that he's starting on Gataxian Probe so that he can be more informed when he makes this decision.
Shriek Maul, Ranger of Eos, and Eternal Witness are the cards here that Froehlich does have. None of those obviously entirely relevant in this situation as Majors draws a sleight of hand. Gataxian Probe gets removed from the game, as all of those cards that Majors does cast from his graveyard will be exiled. So he's got to tread pretty carefully because he only gets really a one-shot at these. I suppose he could, you know, plan on using that Past in Flames and flashing it back and all that stuff later.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Right now he has 3 red. I wouldn't be surprised to see a line like Manamorphose, 2 of it into blue, play Pyromancer Ascension, cast Serum Visions, get a counter on Ascension past turn.
Okay, and then that actually forces Froehlich's hand again of Eternal Witness, get back, maybe Abrupt Decay, kill that. And then, again, that's Froehlich's turn, which you're okay with still.
Yeah, and Froehlich doesn't even have the mana right now to make that play. He would
This
have
is
to
true.
top deck a land to do it.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that majors, you have two. If you do a line like that, then there's two things that'll happen. Either one, you'll get your opponent's entire turn, or two, your opponent won't even kill your Ascension. And
Yeah.
he's probably not going to kill you this turn. I assume if he doesn't hit that 5th land, that majors can win on the untap.
He's another Desperation will cast, so he goes up from 3 to 4. Now here's going to be a Mana Morphos. Some
Right.
blue mana will probably be floating around in there. He will draw a card. That card drawn is a mountain, so he's got 2 red, 2 blue floating.
Right, yeah. Right, okay, so he has 2 red, 2 blue.
There's a Visions. This will leave him with 2 red and a single blue.
So he has chosen not to cast the Ascension in this window here, which to me says he wants to combo this turn.
See a Goblin Electromancer and a Sleight of Hand are the cards he's looking at for the Serum Vision Scry. Again, 2 red and a single blue mana floating, so he can't cast other Serum Visions. He can also flashback Desperate Ravings. Now, of course, he can flashback Desperate Ravings for a red and a colorless as opposed to the flashback cost due to Past in Flames.
Right, and he'll certainly want to do that. The blue mana is your premium mana in this deck. One thing, his Storm is at 7, so he's got a ways to go here. What he actually has to find is if he can find another Grape Shot. That will be enough, because he can cast that Grape Shot and then cast the one out of his yard, and we're at the point where that's pretty much going to be lethal.
Uses the other blues. Now he's got 2 red floating, plays another Serum Visions, draws a card, and it will be scrying 2. He's going to leave them both on top. Here's a Grape Shot. This will be for a pretty large amount, and we'll see he's actually going to go, all right, take 2 to the Malira, 1 to the Birds, rest is going to go up to you. And again, these are just kind of baby Grape Shots. This isn't any crazy thing that he's doing here. He's just whittling away Eric's forces. And don't forget, we know the cards in Froehlich's hand. Ranger, Viosh, Shriek Maul, 2 cards that don't have a huge impact in Eternal Witness, which is pretty slow, honestly.
Yeah, one thing, though, that does set Michael back is he didn't get that window, like I said, to sneak in the Pyromancer Ascension, and he did get rid of most of his graveyard there. So he is going to have to reset. He did draw a lot of cards there, so that's not the worst. It probably will only take him 1 or maybe 2 turns to rebuild his hand.
Froehlich plays an Eternal Witness. He's going to get back that copy of Abrupt Decay. Now, in Major's hand, he's got a couple of cantrip effects in his hand, but the 2 cards that are very important here, Goblin Electromancer and Pyromancer's Ascension. Both of those cards really tax that singleton Abrupt Decay, and now you're in this situation here, Froehlich, of, all right, which one do I kill?
Well, if you're Majors, you'd lead off on the Electromancer, because the real prize is the Pyromancer Ascension based on his hand. His hand has a lot of 1-mana blue cantrips. Electromancer doesn't actually make those cheaper. So what Major's going to do is he's going to throw both of them out.
And he's going to make Froehlich make a decision.
Yeah. The dangerous part about leaving Electromancer is Majors already has a Past in Flames in the graveyard, and Electromancer is great at doing Past in Flames kills.
Yeah. Basically a walking ritual effect in this deck. It's honestly so much more, and it's really going to tax Froehlich here. He's got a decision to make. Do I kill the Electromancer or do I kill the Ascension? This is a kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I'm interested to see exactly what the Channel Fireball Pro is going to do. He's going to take the easy step first. Get in with the Witness.
And he has Shriek Maw, so if he has that land, he actually doesn't have to, he can do both.
Yep.
But he doesn't. So now, I think this is the right way to play it. You take, you give Majors an Ascension, which is dangerous, but you say that, you have to combo it right now.
Yeah.
Majors hasn't built up an entire graveyard yet. He has a Sleight of Hand, a Desperate Ravings, and I believe that's it for spells in his yard right now.
Yeah, nothing crazy going on in his graveyard right now. He obviously has the Past in Flames that he can flash back, but he's going to play a Scalding Tarn, he's going to search around, he's going to go down to 8. Again, Froehlich actually getting a little bit of use out of that Shriek Maul to take care of the Goblin Electromancer, but didn't have 4 mana to be able to take down that and the Pyromancer's Ascension with the Abrupt Decay that he has in his hand. So Majors, again, has this free turn, essentially, where Froehlich is tapped out. He has access to 7 mana, an Ascension that doesn't have any counters on it just yet.
Yeah, I may have to eat my words when I said Malira has no interest in, incremental damaging all the way this game. So that's a second Sleight of Hand. Different art, so it doesn't always look like the same card, but that is a second copy, so he has 1 counter on the Ascension.
One's going to go to the grip, one's going to go to the bottom. Now, if you're Majors, the goal is to get the second counter on the Ascension and start to go absolutely crazy. He does have 2 copies of Thoughtscour in his hand. He's going to cast the first one, going to target himself, turn over 2 cards here in Scalding Tarn and Gitaxian Probe. He'll take a draw, didn't quite catch it, but we do know he has another copy of Thoughtscour, and that is going to trigger the Ascension. So, you see him roll up the die to 2. Serum Visions and Misty Rainforest go to the bin. Pyromancer's Ascension goes to the grip. Now he gets to really do his thing.
Yeah, well, he has a Mana Morphos left in his hand. That's the only card he has. That card is great when doubled, and I believe should be enough to set up this Past in Flames. So this will make 4 mana. Manamorphose is probably the spell that, when doubled, is the most unfair in the deck.
Yeah.
Pay 2 mana. It's you net 2 mana and you get an extra card for nothing.
And you get all the colors.
And you get whatever colors.
Yeah.
You want. It's actually just broken.
There was a little bit of talk about maybe this needs to be the card that's banned after the results of the Pro Tour. I felt that was
ridiculous.
I felt that was a little bit
That's
hasty.
ridiculous.
Yeah. But it is very, very good when you are going off, as Majors does draw 2, adds 4 mana to his pool. We'll get the colors here so you guys have a better idea at home. And it is 2 blue and 2 red. And now you see him analyzing his graveyard. He's going to play a Serum Visions. This is, again, going to happen twice. So you're going to see Majors draw a card, scry, then draw a card and scry again.
Yeah, and this is almost lights out for Froehlich. What Majors wants to find is just, if he finds a ritual, he's off to the races. He didn't find one of the red rituals here. He has the possibility to take a Manamorphose, which is very close. We'll see if he takes it or not. And I think he's going to.
He's going to resolve the second Serum Visions, and as you mentioned, the Manamorphose is going to go to his hand. He looks at his he looks at his Sleight of Hand and his Shivan Reef, how he wants to scry with the second copy of Serum Visions.
Yeah, so he rather than taking 2 blind draws off the Manamorphose, he's choosing to make one of his draws as Serum Visions. That to me says that he is confident right now in his ability to go off. You see that 4 mana. This Manamorphose in his hand will put him up to 6. So he's at 5. I believe he's at 5.
He's at 5 right now.
He's at 1. Yeah, he's at 1. Sorry, he's at 3, and that Manamorphose will put him to 5,
yeah.
right?
And he plays an Electromancer, so that put him from 3 to 1, and the Manamorphose is only going to cost 1.
Yeah, if you thought Manamorphose was broken with Ascension, it's even better with Electromancer.
So he does resolve Manamorphose. Now, one thing as we're watching Major storm off here, he'll draw 2 cards, is just the interaction between the copies and how Grapeshot works. Now, so for some people who are new to Storm, the Pyromancer Ascension makes copies of the cards, so it doesn't add to the Storm count.
Yeah, it just adds 1 to the Storm for the most part. All right, so Majors does actually have the combo put together here. He has 4, yeah, and you see they're scooping to that. So I'll run through what he said, most likely. So he has Past in Flames. Because it costs 1 less, he can cast it for 3. He'll have 1 mana floating, so with 3 mana, he'll have after Past in Flames, he'll have access to 3 mana, the entirety of his graveyard, all of them being doubled, all of them costing 1 less. And just looking at the graveyard, there's enough cards there to cast all the spells and the Grapeshot. It's already lethal without him having to draw any additional cards.
Now, so Froehlich was asking, okay, you get Past in Flames, you're going to do a bunch of stuff. Do you have another Grapeshot in your deck? The answer is yes. Major goes and shows him the second Grapeshot. Froehlich says, that's good enough for me. I'll concede the game. So, after all the dust settles, Michael Majors does win game number 1 of round 10 here in Richmond. Eric Froehlich down a game with Malirapod. We're going to take a look at his sideboard because one of the things here is I think that Malirapod's a bit of a dog game 1 against Storm, but they certainly, get to shore things up. Froehlich has 4 copies of Thoughtseize, a Burrington Forge Tender, an Aethersworn Canoness, a Kadaki's War Wage, an Orzhov Pontiff, a Sync Collector, a Harmonic Sliver, a Thrun the Last Troll, and a Tomb Exarch, a Slaughter Pact, and 2 copies of Path to Exile. 4 Thoughtseize, well, that's the easy one. But the singletons are what really change things because Aethersworn Canoness is very, very hard for Storm to beat.
Yeah, and it's not just Aethersworn Canonist by itself. The biggest thing, and we talked about this last time we saw this matchup, is the ability of Malirapod to Chord of Calling into Canonist in the middle of the Storm player's combo. When he does that, the Storm player has to stop immediately. He's already played his 1 non-artifact spell for the turn over. And there's not a great way for the Storm player to play around this.
Now, other cards here that are going to come in, Sin Collector is basically just a discard spell. The important thing is that it exiles the card as opposed to putting it in the graveyard. Then you've got Harmonic Sliver, which may not be all that exciting, but the fact that it can kill Pyromancer's Ascension, as we saw that last game, very important. And last but certainly not least is Entomber Exarch, which is, again, just kind of a glorified discard effect, and it does actually put the card into the graveyard. But again, you're going to get information, you get the opportunity to look at their hand, it works in your pod chains, and making them discard so you don't have a critical mass of spells in their hand is very important.
Yeah, it's probably just a better 4 than red cap. In some matchups, you may need a red cap to win. At this point, if Eric can gain infinite life off his combo with the Kitchen Finks, that's a good enough. That will win the game. So the reason sometimes that doesn't work, you have to worry about decks that could create a creature wall that you can't break through, or decks that could mill you. Storm is neither of those. Once you get infinite life, the game is yours.
Now you've got Michael Majors' sideboard in front of you, and as a player who's playing Storm in this position, you have to assume that a card like Aethersworn Canoness is going to be coming in, and other things of that nature. So any Echoing Truth or stuff like that hanging out?
Yeah, I mean, every Storm deck pretty much has a bounce spell in the sideboard because, and it's fun because you pretty much board it in blind in every matchup. Because Storm has the ability to draw its whole deck in a turn, just putting in one Echoing Truth, oftentimes, you know, say your opponent plays Leyline of Sanctity, right? We'd be like, well, fine, I will just have to draw my entire deck, find that Leyline, bounce it, then kill you. He has 2, so that means he can actually naturally draw one sometimes. One other thing he has, and this is for aggro matchups a lot of the time, he has 4 Lightning Bolts on the sideboard. That's a card that the Pantheon team has played in the main deck. Or sorry, not sorry, the Pantheon team does not play in main deck. They play this out of the board.
Face-to-face game.
Yeah, face-to-face, and then they play the Lightning Bolt in the main. But he has it in the board, and that'll be good against hate bears that Froehlich could bring in. He's obviously looking for Canonist, but there are other hate bears. Gaddock Teague actually stops his ability to cast Past in Flames, so that card's not irrelevant. There are other cards that you could see, things like, you never know what hate bear and Malarapod could bring in. Like, you could see Thalia. You could even see something like Leonin Arbiter. That's possible.
Yeah. Now, here's the big question. You know, we've seen in the sideboards of both teams' Storms decks, they have Empty the Warrens. And in this particular matchup, there's a card like Orzhov Pontiff, which makes Empty the Warrens quite poor. So you're playing this little bit of game of chicken, for lack of a better term. It's like, I can board and Empty the Warrens, put a bunch of Goblins in play, and while you're trying to mess around and make me this card, I've got 10 1/1s, and you're a little too slow to catch up with that. So is that a reasonable plan in this particular matchup where Froehlich has a bunch of creatures in his deck?
Yeah, I think... So Empty the Warrens has been the plan B for Storm decks for quite a while, and I think as cards have gotten stronger and stronger, that plan has become more and more suspect. A lot of the times there are a lot of situations where 10 Goblins actually just doesn't win the game. Even though, even though the tokens are amazing in that situation.
Great looking tokens.
Great looking tokens,
They
but
are.
sometimes, but you need a lot of them if you want to win.
Yep.
It's still a really good weapon against discard decks because you can't, they attack your critical mass, things, they'll take a lot of cards. What that lets you do is, start turn 2, throw off 4 rituals, make it empty, 10 goblins go. Now you're immune to discard. Where certainly a grape shot for 5 would have been very unimpressive right there.
That's true.
So that's what empty is used for. And granted, Eric's going to board in Thought Seizes, but I don't think at his heart he's still not a discard deck. He's not we're thinking about things like Jund, which you'd want to empty against.
Yeah. Now, and on the other side of things, if you're Froehlich, it's not a huge cost to have a Pontiff in your deck. You can cut a different bullet and have Pontiff to make sure that you don't lose something like that.
Right.
Which is a positive, as we do see Froehlich going to play a Razorverge Thicket into a Birds of Paradise. He'll pass it back to Majors, who's going to play a Gataxian Probe. So let's take a look at what Froehlich is working with. You're going to see a Kitchen Finks, a Chord of Calling, Overgrown Tomb, a Godless Shrine, and the most important of them all, a copy of Thoughtseize.
Yeah, this hand is excellent. So it has a Thoughtseize, as you said, that's great. Also, it has, on turn 3, he can represent Chord for 2, and that should stop any nut draw that Majors could put together.
And there is a Lightning Bolt to take down the Birds of Paradise. Now, we had a feeling he'd bring Lightning Bolt in, of course, as it has plenty of targets in this matchup. And by Lightning Bolting there, Majors is basically saying, I need you to slow down.
Yeah, I think in the history of Magic, when you played against a Birds of Paradise deck and you have a Lightning Bolt, the correct play is always been to Lightning Bolt the Birds, regardless of matchup.
Majors is going to show his hand. He's got a copy of Manamorphose, a Pyromancer's Ascension, an Electromancer, a Serum Visions, a Sleight of Hand, and an Island. So he's got a pretty good hand as well here for game 2.
Yeah, this is pretty resilient. One thing which the Chord of Calling for Canonist does not deal with well is Pyromancer Ascension. It's great at dealing with Past in Flames kills, so I expect you'll see Froehlich take the Ascension as opposed to taking the Electromancer here. That does mean the Majors could have a pretty powerful start, but Eric's going to go the other way. He feels fine dealing with the enchantment.
So here's a draw to Desperate Ravens there for Majors. He's going to play an Island. He's going to deploy the Ascension and pass the turn back. Froehlich will take a draw. And part of the reason that Froehlich actually did let Ascension stay is because last turn he drew a copy of Kasali Pridemate. So he's got...
That is an excellent reason to make it stay.
I agree with you, as he has an answer to both things. He's going to play the Pridemage out. See what land he's going to play, because he does have a dual land he can play tapped. He can also just play Verdant Catacombs. Catacombs obviously gives him the option to search for a land, be it tapped or untapped, and then be able to kill the Ascension. But he's actually just going to play Godless Shrine untapped, get rid of the Ascension now, and pass the turn back. So a bunch of exchange of resources here to start things, and now Majors needs to look for one of those ways to really get going.
Yeah, and like I said before, you wish you could do some damage with the Pridemage, but the fact that there's so much instant speed in the Storm deck that it's just dangerous to let them have the Ascension at all. They can. You don't want him even drawing one extra card off that Ascension, and the best way to do that is just to kill it immediately.
Serum Vision draws a card, and it's also looking at Electromancer and a Past in Flames. So 2 good cards we're looking at, going to keep them both on top. That's that sinking feeling, by the way.
Top, when they go tap with Serum Vision.
It's not the best feeling in the world. As Majors is going to play Manamorphose. This is strictly to draw a card so we can put Electromancer into play and pass the turn back. And again, Majors is working with some pretty good information from that Gataxian Probe on turn 1 as Froehlich draws a copy of Quarter Calling for the turn.
Yeah, it's a second Court of Calling. What that means right here is that with Kitchen Finks and 2 Court of Callings, a combo is looming.
Yeah, I guess that is true. He can work his way towards the infinite life combo, which is going to get the job done. However, the scary thing we mentioned is scry. The other thing is letting your opponent untap with a Goblin Electromancer with cards in their hand.
Yeah, I mean, if opponent's gone top and they're untapping with an Electromancer, that's not what you wish was happening. Froehlich didn't really have an option here. He could have courted for 1 or casted Sphinx. There's no removal spell for Electromancer at 1 in his deck, so.
I believe the fireworks are going to begin. This is going to be a 1-mana Pyretic Ritual. There will be 3 red in the pool.
It's Dark Ritual, but red.
It is. That's fun. Dark Ritual.
It's a fair card.
I guess Dark Ritual probably shouldn't be legal in this format. But we've made a makeshift Dark Ritual here. As Majors is analyzing the graveyard, we know he has a Past in Flames in his hand. He's going to, in a moment, it looks like, cast a Sleight of Hand.
Yeah, he wants to get as many instants in the yard as he can afford before making that Past in Flames. Remember, Past in Flames is it's going to be cast for 3. Electromancer's excellent with a Past in Flames skill, and you'll see that demonstrate here. And I mean, I'm really not kidding. It's great with Past in Flames.
It's past in Flames time now, and
this is so a key play here. He's going to cast Past in Flames.
Explain this. This is interesting.
He's responding to his own Past in Flames with Desperate Ravings. That's so he can get more cards in the graveyard before Past in Flames resolves. But he has to do it in this order because he doesn't want to discard the Past in Flames to Desperate Ravings.
Okay. Gonna discard Scalding Tarn. Desperate Ravings resolves. Now, Past in Flames resolves. This is still on the stack. He's going to cast Pyretic Ritual. Really, really nice sequencing here for Majors.
Yeah, he's getting full value out of this Past in Flames. He now has 3 red in his pool. So this means when the Past in Flames resolves, all these things are going to have flashback. Remember, this is already 4 spells this turn for Majors. This turn is looking more and more like a combo turn.
And again, the reason that he has to cast the Pyretic Ritual with Past in Flames in the stack as well is because now that Pyretic Ritual has flashback as well. So he's able to do all these things. Because had he let Past in Flames resolve and then cast the Pyretic Ritual, he only gets 1 use out of it as opposed to 2. So he's going to add a bunch of mana here with the Ritual. Now he's going to cast Mana Morphos. Obviously, he's going to work his way towards some blue mana in the old mana pool here.
Yeah, he drew a Pyromancer Ascension. The big thing is that he has not found a Grape Shot yet. So he may have to Ascension here. He doesn't actually doing very well on the I have lots of cards with the same name front. You saw already burning off that Pyretic Ritual. That was the only card he actually had doubles of.
It's a very diversified graveyard right now.
Yeah, that'd be good if he had extra copies in his hand of these things.
Looks like he's going to go with the Serum Visions.
Right. That card digs the most. He just needs to find a Grape Shot or extra copies of cards in his graveyard.
Now, there's a backup. You saw the cards there. He's looking at the scry. There's a Gataxian Probe among there, and there's a Gataxian Probe in the graveyard. So that can get you 1 counter.
Right.
He needs to work his way towards 2 counters here.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting if he see, he has a Serum Visions there as well. He doesn't actually have a way to draw right now. I mean, he has Desperate Ravings, which he's going to have to do to hit those.
So you see him really taking a look at those scry cards and what he wants to do. Again, he could put those both to the bottom and then draw a mystery card with the Gataxian Probe. He can, or leave them both on the top.
Yeah, I was going to say that he probably leaves them both on top because they both replace themselves already. There's it's leaving them on top is pretty equivalent to putting them on the bottom because you're going to get the 2 cards under them no matter what you do.
And now, Desperate Ravings is going to occur here. Again, the flashback cost, he can pay the normal flashback cost of 1 red, but it's actually only just a single red because of Electromancer. Electromancer's
really good with a Past in Flames skill. Just very good.
And now he will be discarding momentarily. You see Froehlich get the die ready, help him randomly discard a card. It'll be the first one. That's going to be a Serum Visions that goes to the bin.
It's a pretty good one if you're Eric Froehlich. Means that Major's his only draw spell is this attack. Oh, yeah, sorry, he has a Sleight of Hand in hand. He has a Sleight of Hand, but he's running out of draw spells. Yep. It's possible he can brick here.
Probe will draw him a card. He finds, a Serum Visions.
And now we're off to the races. that was counter number 2.
Yep.
The question will be how much blue mana Majors actually has right now. He got 4 off that doubled Mana Morphos. So
that is my assumption,
I think he's fine.
But you do see he's taking his time here a little bit. So, again, we don't know exactly how much blue mana he does have floating. He is analyzing his graveyard, looking at a Serum Visions, a sleight of hand, and a Goblin Legendmancer in the grip. There is a Serum Visions, we think. We know.
Yeah.
This is going to tick that up to 2. He's going to draw a card. That's a Shivan Reef. Grape Shot and Desperate Ritual are the cards he's looking at now.
Grape Shot's on top, and we're going to stay on top there. And now we're getting very close to the combo point. So what he will probably do is just cast a few more spells, get that Grape Shot, cast Grape Shot, flashback past and flames, cast Grape Shot.
You make it sound so easy.
Well, at that point, that's only 3 spells. And 2 of them are the same card.
But you made it sound so easy. He's going to play Shivan Reef as he did not play his land yet for the turn. He's going to flashback attack Sim Probe again. He can do that with Phyrexian mana.
Right.
Take a look at Froehlich's hand. He says your hand doesn't matter. He saw him draw 2 cards. There's a Desperate Ritual. There is a Grape Shot.
He's probably saying that I have the Grape Shot, here's Past in Flames, I have some rituals, and that'll do it.
Michael Majors defeats Eric Froehlich 2-0. Storm defeats Melirapod, but the thing that I think of most with that matchup is that guy on the right knows how to play Storm.
Yeah, it's just that easy, right?